to another edition of Cohasset Common. I'm your host, Town Manager Chris Sr., and on this week's episode, I'm in the Cohasset Schools with Dr. Pat Sullivan, taking a look at where we are with students and where we're heading as the year wraps up. We'll take a look at Nicole Balashi and Safe Harbor, what they're doing with this year's Earth Day programs. We'll have a look at a special program sponsored by Cohasset Elder Affairs, and correspondent Quinn Kelly takes a look at Donut Friday. I think we want to get in line for that one. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Cohasset Common.
We're outside here on a little bit of a chilly day, but still a good one. Sun shining bright, and we're here with Brian, the owner of Seabird Coffee. And Brian, we heard you guys are doing something exciting. Tell us about Donut Fridays.
Sure. Yeah. So Donut Friday is something we've been doing for the past, I guess, a little over 3 years. Started off as just kind of a business idea of like how to get people in here and excited to drum up business for us. Mm-hmm. It's turned into a bit of a phenomenon that's gone a little bit beyond that. It's great that it's our busiest day of the week, but I think it's become something that everybody looks forward to. To me, Donut Friday kind of symbolizes like a reward or the end of somebody's week, so it gives everybody something to look forward to. During this pandemic, it's even grown exponentially. At one point, there was a line that would go all the way up to the Commons. Social distancing, 6 feet apart, so maybe the line seemed a little longer than normal, but it's definitely provided us an opportunity to kind of connect with people and provide like almost a release, which has been phenomenal.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about how did it get started? How did you guys? You obviously make great coffee. How did you get into donuts?
I'd love to say it was my idea, but it wasn't. It was one of our employees who would frequent Donut King over in Quincy. Lois, the owner over there, is phenomenal. And she's kind of been a stalwart in the donut community, if you will. What goes better with coffee than a donut? So our thought was like, okay, we could send somebody over there and pick up donuts, and it grew from buying 3 or 4 dozen donuts to now we go through over between 30 and 40 dozen donuts in a day. And then we go from, it transferred from going from Donut King in Quincy, then we needed more donuts, we went to Donut King in Weymouth, so now we get donuts in both of them. My daughter happens to be gluten-free or has a gluten intolerance. So one day she said, "Dad, why can't I have a donut? Why is there no opportunity for me to have donuts?" So this was during the pandemic. I said, you know what? Cane's Donuts in Boston makes a great gluten-free donut. So I'll drive in on Friday mornings and go get gluten-free donuts. It's more for the community than it is anything. Yeah. The trip alone and getting all the donuts is more to provide just an amenity to people. Mm-hmm. And the smiles it brings on people's faces has been incredible. I think it provides not only like something to look forward to for the week, but the bonding and family experience of, you'll see fathers and daughters and sons and mothers and daughters and sons and just full families come as a group. It gives them an opportunity to kind of look forward to something, but also participate in something that seems to be become their routine. It's gone way beyond just selling a donut, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Well, I have to ask, your Friday mornings, what time are you getting up and going out and grabbing all the donuts?
So we leave the house around 5 a.m. Wow. Donuts are picked up at 5:30. We open at 6:30. We have a second wave of donuts that comes in at 10 a.m. it gets here. So we get basically 2 shifts of donuts, and then right now, because of pandemic stuff, we've shortened our hours. We're closed by 1, but who knows? I mean, maybe I should get in the donut game, but I'm happy. We've got some great donuts to be selling.
It's an awesome partnership between small businesses across a number of different communities on the South Shore and then into Boston. So it's really a great thing. All right, it's my cheat day, so I'm gonna go over there when we're done and order a donut. What is your favorite go-to?
So I'm very much like a black coffee drinker. Okay. I'm also a very simple donut eater. I don't need a lot of frills.
I like that.
I've always gone like a classic glazed donut, like a honey dip donut is perfect for me. Or I'll go for if I'm in the mood for something a little heartier, one of the cake donuts are my favorite. So either chocolate cake or a chocolate glazed cake donut.
And what do you advise for the more adventurous donut muncher?
The gluten-free donuts are phenomenal. The Cane's donuts are great. So anybody who is into the gluten-free stuff, their glazed and their maple bacon donut is amazing. The butter crunch is super popular, and then the kids love sprinkles.
Anything new coming up here at Seabird?
Besides some seasonal drinks, our format of just providing great coffee and donuts on Fridays, pastries on Saturdays and Sundays will probably remain for the summer. we're going to extend our hours for springtime and summertime. We've got a lot of new merchandise coming out, and I think we're going to probably participate in as many events, outdoor events as we can this summer. Hi, Jeff. So beyond that, I think we're looking forward to opening our second Seabird down in Duxbury, down in the Duxbury Marketplace. Hopefully we'll have that open by May. That's new and exciting, so that's kind of where we're pushing all of our energy to. Otherwise, it's just providing the same service that we've been providing all.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to everything.
Yeah, me
Thanks
too.
very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, and as we look to prevent underage alcohol use, as a community, we've really taken the time during COVID to step back and see what is really the issue at hand here in Cohasset. And we found through data and key informant interviews that underage alcohol use is really what affects our community. So we launched our Safe Home campaign, which provides a directory that will go public in the fall. And it's simply a time for parents, merchants, youth, any Cohasset resident to take the pledge and say that they will not provide alcohol to minors, nor will they provide a space to minors. It is not pledging abstinence as an adult. It is not pledging to not have alcohol in the home. It is simply saying, I will not provide this alcohol to minors or provide this space. And then lastly, we do have Ground Level Cafe at Sandy Beach May 7th, and that takes place on a Friday evening, an alternative event for our youth, and we hope to see you there.
Spring is here, even if the weather outside isn't showing it. And today, we're back with Dr. Pat Sullivan, the superintendent of the Cohasset Schools, to talk about where we are and where we're going with the schools.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Chris, as always.
Welcome back to Cohasset 143.
Thank you. Glad to update.
So when we met last, and I believe it was in January,
Sounds right, yeah.
there was planning for a return. Kids are in a hybrid mode, and you were looking forward to getting kids back in school full time, and
That's right.
I think that's where we are.
We are. I'm proud to say we're almost all back all the time. I'll get into what that means, but when we last talked, we were in the process of planning, but it wasn't made clear yet by the commissioner what the task of the schools was in terms of were we going to get a mandate to come back. We were certainly everyone trying to gear up to bring our kids back as full as possible because of the importance of the in-person learning, but we wanted to make sure, as always, we did it safely, and we did it in tune with the guidance we were getting from the state. Shortly after, I think, our interview, the last interview, the commissioner did come out. He came out with guidance. He was given basically permission by his board, which is the school board of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, to come up with dates where he would mandate that schools come back in person, basically making the remote learning model not sufficient as a school-wide learning model for time on learning. And he did it in a phased format. We were ahead of that curve. His phased format was to have all the elementary students in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in person 5 days a week by April 5th. And then to have the middle school back in person 5 days a week by April 28th.
And you had planned to move ahead of that. In fact, I think you did, right?
We're ahead of it. But I want to make it clear that we were still looking at the data, right. and the commissioner had come out and said that he wanted this to happen, but was giving schools and districts time because. Right. As we know from the pandemic, every community has different challenges. We've had some challenges in terms of the spacing in our buildings. It made us, particularly at the middle and the high school, made us look at those with a bit of a more discerning eye. It helped that the CDC came out and agreed with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that the minimum distance would be 3 feet edge of seat to edge of seat in our classrooms. That was a real sticky wicket for us in the beginning of the year. Once that happened and we had worked that through with the Teachers Association, we were able to move forward a little more aggressively, I guess. Aggressive might not be a good word for it, but we wanted to make sure we got our kids back. We recognize how important it is, and the teachers do as well. I mean, they're right in there thinking in the same vein with us. But we brought our elementary students back 5 days in person on March 1st.
So like a whole month ahead of the mandated.
We were ahead of the mandate and ahead of a lot of the districts around us. But again, it's not a competition. It's
No,
really
no, 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 it was when it was safe.
yeah, it was when
To
it
be
was
clear,
safe
it was
for
when it was
us,
safe.
exactly. And looking at our community rates, looking at our school rates, we're very, feel fortunate, yes, and also are proud of what we put in place at the schools. And it's in heavy collaboration with the town. I can't stress that enough, that our meetings every week have been very guiding for us in the schools too. But we looked at making sure that when we brought our students back, that we would be safe, and we looked at those transmission rates, and we've had no transmissions confirmed in Cohasset Public Schools.
That's great.
Now, we've had community members, both students, of course, staff, who have unfortunately contracted it. No hospitalizations to our knowledge, but we have had those situations that, of course, we've had to close contact folks.
Right.
None of those individuals who we've had as close contacts have actually tested positive. So that tells us that we're doing as much as we can to keep kids safe here in the schools. That did help us in terms of us pushing forward. And I think that's probably the big reason we came back as early as we were able to.
And as you've been saying all along, it's been a collaboration with the parents,
It
with
really
the students, with the staff.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
So that everyone is being heard and you're taking the precaution you need to do at the same time, looking out for the social, emotional, and educational
Yes.
welfare of the kids.
Absolutely, and also looking at the data, and data on school transmission just wasn't readily available. No, we hadn't been through this in 100 years.
Right.
We just didn't have the data, and we were able to bring in data through a couple of studies that had happened. One very important one in Massachusetts, which looked at schools that had students at a 3-foot distance with masks and all the precautions, and schools that had them at a 6 feet, and compared the two, and found that the difference wasn't much at all. It was kind of negligible. So saying that, we all know that 6 feet is we want to strive for that.
That's
but
the standard, that's basically where we are right now.
Correct, but the 3 feet was okay, and with the need to get kids back in person, that it was a mitigated risk to take. So we did move with that. And then, as I mentioned, we're now almost back full in person. We have our middle and high school kids came back on April 5th.
Oh, great.
So we've had them in person 5 days a week. The only thing that we haven't had yet is because we have shared lunch areas, this is our last day. We've had 2 weeks of our high school students leaving at 12:45, going home for lunch, and then rejoining their class remotely. And thankfully, and I think skillfully, our high school principal and team have created a schedule that rotates that last period, so it's a different last period every day at home. But I'm happy to say that as we have planned, on April 26th, when we come back from break, our high school students will be here for a full day as well.
Oh, great.
Having lunches, and we're using a lot of spaces to do that. We have a big tent coming to put outside, which will be mainly for lunches for our high school students as the weather gets better. But we're also going to be utilizing the other side of our gymnasium, with our phys ed classes now being able to go out more. It's more appropriate to do that. And our high school team and middle school team have worked really closely together to make sure these shared spaces are not going to be an issue. And we're going to be able to keep safe as we go forward. So we're really happy where we are now. Our full in-person for elementary has gone so well. Could not be prouder of the teachers, of our leadership, of our parents, of our students. And the middle school and high school have followed in suit. It's been a really good 2 weeks. It's going to be nice to have a little bit of a break. I'm not gonna lie to you on that one, Chris, for this week coming up. Re-gear, and then we'll be back full in person on the 26th.
It's got to be a well-earned spring vacation week.
For everyone,
Yes.
for the teachers, I think for families, but I'm looking forward to a really positive end of the year, and with our seniors in particular.
Now, I know there's still plans in formation, and the guidance is kind of changing positively for the most part
Yeah.
as we go. But I know that to leap ahead, one of the things that I know you're all hoping to do is have graduation, have
Yes.
some other events. And, how's that coming along?
It's coming along really well. We've set up events, and I should say the Principal Scott and his team have set up some really nice events, working with the students safe outdoor events or events that are following the rules of the places they're going to. And one of them, of course, is graduation. So we're set for a graduation date of May 28th, which this year will be right out here in our alumni field.
That's great.
So I'm very happy for that. And it's going to be as traditional a graduation as we can have. You know, we're going to have some spacing between people wearing masks, but we are going to have our kids cross the stage. It might be a little different, maybe not so much handshaking,
Right.
but we're going to have our kids cross the stage, get recognized, the speeches. I believe working with 143, that will all be televised, and we just had to look up to make sure of that. But it'll be all televised, and the people will be able to see that from home as well. We'll be somewhat limited on our on who can come to the graduation, but it still will be a good representation for each student, and
At least their immediate family.
You got it.
And the students themselves.
and the students themselves. And we're extremely happy to have that happening. And we do have hope, and it is in the plan that we'll have a prom-like event for them here at Alumni Field as well.
Oh, great.
That's in the works, and you know, as you said, we are looking at the regulations. Obviously, the graduation was a primary important to us, but I know those students really want some social opportunity to be able to be with each other for these, you know, these last times as official high school students and Cohasset students. So we want to give that to them. Very excited for it, and again, very proud of the work the team has done up at the high school.
That's great. One of the things that folks have talked about, and you've heard this in a lot of other places, particularly where kids have been kind of out a lot,
Yes.
is kind of an education lag, I guess, or from what I've been hearing here, it hasn't really been as impactful here.
Well, I think, so the term that what you hear using a lot is learning gaps.
Yeah.
I prefer the term unfinished learning, because that really is what it is. I mean, we've been looking at our learning from a prioritized standpoint. In other words, we knew from the lessons in the spring that we were going to have to prioritize certain standards and really go deeply into those, and that there may be things that we couldn't get to that we had previously in the depth that we wanted to, but we wanted to be sure that we were prioritizing our learning. I think we did a really good job of that. I also think having a pretty much synchronous remote model with our middle and high school has paid off. That we're finding that those students are really pretty close to where they were in past years.
Okay.
The elementary, of course, where you're building those real foundational skills, we are taking a really close look at that. But what we're finding from some of our scores that we give every year, for instance, in reading, we look at, they're called DIBELS scores, where we look at how students are progressing, and we give those frequently throughout the year. They're pretty much in tune with what we've had in the past.
That's good.
And anything that we're falling behind in, we are going to have, we're looking at that programming not only in the summer, we're going to have a summer jumpstart program that's going to be open to anyone who wants it.
Great.
We're just in the process of staffing that to fill some of that unfinished learning. And of course, we have child study teams at every level, so if we see individual students who are falling behind, we're going to target our responses to them and make sure that we reach out to them to give them whatever we can over the summer. And then, of course, with all students, how is this going to impact what we do next year? And we're really prepared for that. We feel good about what we're laying out. Our director, I should say our assistant superintendent, who's in charge of curriculum, instruction, and assessment, has been leading our teams during our professional development days to guarantee that we have a plan moving forward. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that with the public in our upcoming school committee meetings. So feeling pretty good about it.
That's good. So it sounds like, you know, we're starting, we're not just seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, we're very, very deep towards that end, I guess.
We are, yeah.
And the year, which started really with a lot of optimism, but also a lot of uncertainty,
It did.
has really progressed pretty well, all things, not even all things considered, just in general.
It has. I mean, I say that with the sort of caveat that you can't substitute for that in-person learning.
Right.
And it was certainly frustrating and difficult for families, and I so appreciate them working with us to really point out some things that we could improve, and hopefully they saw we made movements in those directions when we needed to. You know, as I mentioned in the past, I'm a parent of 4 elementary students under 12, all in school, not in Cohasset schools, but in nearby district, and I can absolutely appreciate how difficult it is juggling your career and your home life, and often two people in a family working and trying to help a student engage in a lesson remotely. So that was difficult, but I think we did, we got better at that. There are some things we've learned from the pandemic in education that will stick around. I think from a technology point of view, you know, we've learned how to use technology to redefine some of our learning experiences. That is a big silver lining. But I am proud of what we were able to put together this year, but it's still been a tough year. And I can absolutely appreciate families and where they're coming from.
So it's going to be one that, all things considered, things have worked well. The COVID has been under control to a large extent. You've
Yes.
been able to hit all the metrics, get the families, get the staff, get the kids
Yeah.
engaged, and now you're kind of be able to kind of like round the track one last time,
That's right.
head for the finish, and then be prepared for hopefully in the fall back to normal.
Well, I'm hopeful, you know, as you know, with the 4 million or so folks who are getting vaccinated daily in the United States, and hopefully, we know that 16 and over, I believe, are going to be open to get vaccinated, I believe, on Monday.
I think so, yeah.
As we sit here now.
It's late April. Yeah.
That is going to be really a positive move in the right direction for us, because as many of our students that we can get vaccinated, and I know that's obviously a family choice, but from a trend standpoint, that's important. So I do have high hopes that we'll be in a much better place this fall, of course, than we were in the last fall. And we've learned some things. So whatever comes our way, we'll be ready for it. I really admire the resiliency of our staff. I just have to say the work they put in with the kids has been exemplary, and then really our students for their resiliency and their fortitude in dealing with what they've had to face. And of course that ties into families too. So I feel very proud to be in Cohasset right now.
It's the committee really has come together, and it's something that I think we've all seen from whatever roles we've played.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know we're all grateful. All of us are grateful that we're starting to finally come out of this. That said, I also agree that there's been some silver linings in this, both how we provide services,
Yeah,
resiliency lessons. I mean, these are real life resiliency lessons, right?
they really are.
And I think we've all been equally grateful and proud of staff that have stepped up, and just residents who've really been able to plug in, and we've been able to be there for the people who need the extra help. Nothing perfect, right? There's been some moments that we all look back.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to coming back and circling with you in a couple of months and say, hey, the year's wrapped, and here's where things are going.
I'd love to be able to update on that, and I really appreciate this, and I appreciate the town and the work that, you know, you've done to bring the town together, because, you know, we really, I think, in many cases are a model for some of the work that needs to be done in any community, and, you know, I appreciate your work with that.
Appreciate that. We all appreciate each other's work on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
It definitely has been a year of challenge. At the same time, I think it's been a year that we've really been able to overcome. And again, hopefully, it won't be tested like this for another 100 years.
I'd be with you on that one.
Right? So thank you, Dr. Pat Sullivan, our
Thank you very
Superintendent of
much.
Schools,
Thank you very much, Chris.
and with an update on where we are with the Cohasset School System.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Richard from Cohasset Elder Affairs, located at Wilcox Commons at 91 Sawyer Street. We're happy to present to you an episode of Jock Talk, Celtics Preview, brought to you by Independence Associates. Independence Associates promotes the right of people with disabilities to live independently in their communities. This is a sentiment that we can all stand behind. Please enjoy this video featuring NBC Sports Boston Celtics insider Chris Forberg. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Cohasset Common, and thanks to all those who made this edition possible, including correspondent Quinn Kelly, producer Jack Cunningham, and executive producer Don Roy. From all of us at 143 TV, thanks for joining us.